Hey gang, it's Wes. How are you? I got my trusty energy drink right here. No coffee today, sadly. We're out of half and half. I can't have my coffee without some sort of half and half or like milk based thing. I know some people can drink coffee straight and, God bless, but I'm a diva, so I need a little something in there, a little extra in there. But this will do just fine for us. So today, in this video, we have, in my opinion, an interesting topic. I usually try to find the ones that are interesting. YouTube videos wouldn't be very fun if they were boring topics. But something I've been trying to do during this May Sketch a Day phase, my main goal, your goal is always to kind of improve your art and stuff like that. But really what I wanted to do is I wanted to improve my method. I wanted to work on my process. And there's something that I've had kind of in the back of my mind for a while now. And I wanted to kind of correlate it with why my goal is this. So, McDonald's, the restaurant chain, sells about, on average, it shows about 6.5 million hamburgers a day. A day. That's nuts. Some numbers are even higher than that if you count all around the world and stuff. Just their burgers, 6.5 million a day. They sell 75 a second or something. Crazy, right? Why is that? Well, I like McDonald's as much as the next person, but it's not like Michelin 5-star cuisine. It's not, it's nothing fancy. And there's probably socioeconomic reasons for this too. I mean, you can probably find a McDonald's in a town that may not even have a fresh grocery store. That's a whole different topic. But just know there's a lot that goes into this. But one very important reason why, very important, is because you know what you're going to get. You can probably, if I say McDonald's French fries, you can probably, like, your brain can probably taste them already. You know what I mean? You probably know what your favorite go-to thing at McDonald's is because you know you can rely on it. It's reliable, it's replicable. They can make it the same way over and over and over. It's done through an assembly line, essentially, but it's effective. I mean, the numbers don't lie, right? So, as an illustrator, your job is different than a fine artist. Jeff Miracola, an amazing fantasy artist. I have a lot of his tutorials. Awesome guy, awesome artist. He talks about this. The difference between a fine artist and an illustrator is the illustrator is hired to do a gig. You are hired to bring somebody else's idea to life at a high level. Fine artist, you can do whatever you want. It's all expression. It's all you. It's all that. There's no litmus. There's no grade. There might be money changing hands, but it's after the fact, right? But with an illustrator, you need to be able to produce at a high level, consistently and reliably. We've talked about this before. To get hired by your dream company, you do not have to be the best artist. You don't. I promise you don't. You just have to be the least risky, which means the most reliable. You need to turn your stuff in on time. It has to be good. You don't need to cause a headache for your art director. Blah, blah, blah. Be the least risky. Okay, we got that out of the way. I needed to find a way to make a step-by-step process that I can follow to get good results, if not great results, depending on how much time I spend. Which sounds basic, but really, and you guys have known this for years since I've done the YouTube channel, the way I work is different from painting to painting to painting. Like, it's all, hey, how do I feel? Let me do expressive brushwork this time. Let me do this in the background. And it's cool for variety, and it's cool to try stuff out. But I need a go-to method that I can do anything at any time in any way. So that's what we're going to look at this time. This video is going to be set up a little bit different. We are going to do a piece. It's going to be, I think, number 24. I'm a few days behind on May Sketch a Day. But we're going to do the 24th piece for May Sketch a Day. I'm thinking some cool, like, D&D, like a rogue. I'm a big fan of rogues and thieves and stuff as far as that universe, every time I play Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights or an MMO or something, I usually go that route. Kind of a rogue that can speak well, kind of get, the communication skills good, but, kind of sly, maybe not always on the up and up. It's an interesting character to me, and they can also use bows and stuff like that, but they're versatile, right? They're basically Garrett from the Thief series of video games. That's pretty much it. But I feel like I want to make a rogue, and I'd like to make a rogue. The handsome guy maybe has a few scars on his face because some deals went bad. Kind of the trench coat look, almost like he's a detective, but not really. That whole thing. Just something like that. But that's all I have in my mind right now. It's like, okay, I want to make this character. I don't know who he is, but, it's going to be cool. And I want to make it at a level that's high enough for a portfolio. But I want to spend less than 5 hours on it. How do we do that? So this video, we're going to do that from beginning to end. A clean canvas. I'm going to break down exactly what each step is as I get there. Then we're going to time-lapse with music and no narration. We're going to time-lapse each individual part. So I'm going to talk about the sketch and the way that I do it. Then you're going to see the sketch with the music. Then I'm going to talk about the next phase. I'm going to show you in real time and talk about it, why I'm doing it, what decisions I'm making. Then you're going to see the time-lapse of that. So we're going to do that in chunks because I don't want this to be a 5-hour, no. I'll do that for a premium tutorial. People can buy their way into that. But no, I'm not going to force you to watch a, 7-hour or whatever long video. It's not going to happen. So we're going to do this. We're going to mention it at the end. I think we're going to tie it all together. But I just want to let you know, the setup's going to be slightly different. I'm going to timestamp each step. So if you're looking for a specific step or how I solve a certain problem, like underpainting or, adding color or whatever, you can jump to that. But yeah, this is a fun method. I really love it. The cool thing is I can also do this with traditional painting, almost verbatim. So we're going to talk about that as well. But anyways, enough intro, enough of that. Let's get into it. Let's talk about being better and being a better artist by repeatable, replicable methods. Let's do it. Alright, so we are here. We have a blank canvas. It is at 1500 by 1500 pixels. That's what I've been doing. All of these may sketch a day. Things, yeah, it just looks good on Instagram. It looks good on Twitter. It's easy to post. It doesn't have to resize all that much. And it looks good for a thumbnail for like ArtStation. They use little perfectly square thumbnails for their preview shots and stuff. So it just works across the board. And it's easy to do. It's at a small enough resolution that 72 pixels per inch. So that's, small enough that we work fast. You're not bogged down with system requirements. So the first part of this is the sketch. So you all know me, I'm not a big line art person. I don't do very detailed line art. But two things. Number one, I just like to roadmap things or like put down basic shapes to where things are going to go and then I can paint it in. But also, with this new method that I'm doing, I'm actually having more fun doing sketching because it's faster. It's faster, I don't have to fuss around with different settings on things. I literally can hit one button and go between an eraser and a brush. I don't have to fuss around with different stuff. So I'm going to show you that and kind of show you the secret of it. I do have to give credit to Dave Raposa, who's incredible. He does this, and when I heard about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds neat. And then I tried it, and it was a game changer. I actually enjoy sketching more because of this one unique trick. But anyway, let me show you what it is. So I'm just going to grab a brush right here. We're going to be using Darkin's brushes. I love Darkin. Been a big fan of his for years and years and years. He has a great brush pack. And basically, I'm going to make my sketch brush, about 5 to 7 pixels ish. But something very important. I'm going to make a new layer over here. And I guess I can call this sketch just for ease of use. Just so it's easy to keep track of what's going on. And then I'm going to change this to multiply. So multiply layer, basically everything that is black shows up. Everything that is white does not. Okay? It almost works like a mask without having to make a mask. But in reverse. Normally with masking something, anything white is shown and anything black is hidden. But this is reverse, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Another very, very, very important thing that you have to do to work really fast on this. Come over, and this is in Photoshop. We're using Photoshop right now. But you can, I think you can do this in a vast majority of painting apps. Basically, you want to make your foreground color completely 100% black, and then your background color 100% white. Okay? Then, to change between these two, I have it set up on my keyboard. I think this is the default for Photoshop. Hit the X button. So what that's going to do is that's going to let us start sketching. But if we need to like come in, or we're like sketching something, and let's say we make a weird mark that we don't really want, instead of going to the eraser tool and trying to resize and stuff, I just hit the X button, and then I very quickly come in and mark it out. Do you see what I mean? So instead, and then I hit the X button, and then I'm back to sketching. I don't change any sizes. I don't change anything. No transparencies, no nothing. I just draw or not draw. You know what I'm saying? And it's very fast. I mean, this is incredibly fast. And it's okay if there's some remnants of this, especially with the method that we're working with. We're literally going to be painting over all of this anyway. But I just wanted to show you that. Literally, that's it. So multiply layer. Make sure you got black and white as your foreground and background color respectively. And then set up a hotkey to flip your foreground and background colors. And that's it. That's all you got to do. So yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to start this. I think it's going to be like, if I were to guess, I'd like to do a, basically his face down here. I want to show off his personality. He has the rugged good looks. He's handsome, all that stuff. But, this where he's kind of looking down kind of this way, like that. He has sort of the trench coat thing going on. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go into the detailed sketch part. We're going to listen to some music. And then after we're done with the sketch, we're going to move on to the next step. So we'll see you then. All right, so we got our basic sketch in of our pretty boy rogue. It's funny, he went from looking like his face, I don't know, he seems like this weird subconscious hybrid of like Keanu Reeves as John Wick, or David Beckham, or Josh Sawyer, Josh Holloway, who played Sawyer on Lost. So like, basically it's Gambit. Like I kind of just drew Gambit. That's fine though, right? But anyway, yeah, this tells me everything I need. You're gonna notice a few things on the sketch. Still, it's very, very loose, but it does give me some good confines to work with. I'm not sure about these buttons in this right here. Functionality, it makes sense that you would be able to like button that up, but also, you know, maybe it's just since he's our beefy cover boy, maybe he doesn't even need that. Maybe it's just like a cool V-neck type thing. I don't know. So really, this is just to get us started. But yeah, very, very quick sketch. Also, there's very little things that I put in here. So like, if you see that triangle right there, this is called the Rembrandt triangle. I kind of know that this side's going to be in the shadow, which you can see kind of all the marks and stuff. I kind of got a few ideas of lighting. Not much though, but just enough that like zooming out, the sketch looks okay. You know what I mean? But this is enough info to start on the next phase. So this next phase is going to be our value block-in. Now, value block-in is great because basically what that means is you just work in grayscale, black and white. You're not worried about color yet. What this is going to be used for, this can be a variety of things. Primarily the way I'm using it in this new method, not only am I setting up my lighting and just the value passes, but also I'm going in and I'm doing a little bit of rendering. I'm actually putting in some of the textural elements. I'm putting in some of that stuff this early just to make sure that what the idea that I have or whatever is working okay. I'm finding that that's really helpful later because I already have a basis of some rendering done that I can then work on top of. And I'm not trying to balance too many things later, like, oh, well, what about my colors and the saturations and the, you know, the harmonies and stuff like that, plus start rendering in detail. Now, we're going to do a big render pass at the end, but for right now, we can get some basic information in, and I think it's going to help us later down the line, especially when we do the next few steps. So really, I'm going to work in black and white. A cool trick to be able to do if you want to do a value pass real quick, or make sure that you're locked in to pure black and white, every art program has a way that you can do what's called like a grayscale, almost like a filter. Some people call it a proof. So you can do something like a dot gain 20% in Photoshop, which is where you go to a proof setup, and then you go to custom, and then here, working gray dot gain 20%, that's going to make sure that everything works in grayscale at the click of a button. And you click OK, and now you can see that the proof colors are on, but anytime you want to go back and forth between color and grayscale, you just hit the hotkey Control Y. But I'm going to show you a way, and I've shown this quite a few times on the channel, how you can quickly stay within values no matter what program you're using very quickly. It's almost exactly the same as dot gain 20%. There's a slight difference, but not even enough that you can tell unless you're really looking for it. And that's basically the black or white overlay with the color method. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna zoom out so you can see this. New layer. We're gonna fill this in with pure black. Then on the blending mode for this, we're going to go to color. That way, anything underneath this, so like if I go like this, anything underneath this, so I'm going to pick like a red color, right? And I'm gonna pick a brush, and then you're going to see as I color in, because we have that on, you see what I mean? you're immediately working in exact, pretty exact values. So you can use color and stuff, but really for this one, I use black and white. You'll see why here in a little bit. This is just a great way to do this. And then what I do, whenever I'm done with this, I will bring this up above my value. So if I do, I'll just put value render. It's not a full render, but just to make it easier for me to remember. And then I do this. What you can do is just go in and then just merge down. Oh, wait, nope. Ha! Wrong. Wait, how do I do this? How do I bring this into... There's a way to do it. Oh no, did I forget how to do it? Maybe so. There is a way, I believe, that you can do this. I mean, push comes to shove. Yeah, there should be a way. Is it... Do I select both layers and then go merge layers? No? What in the world? Oh, is it because it's taking... I don't know. Who knows, man? Really what you can do, if you just hide this, whenever you're working on your value layer, edit, copy, or let's see. Select all, copy merged. There you go. And then on top of this, if you just go to edit, paste, now you have that black and white right there. There is another way to do it. I think different programs do it a different way because of how layers blend with one another whenever you merge them. I think it takes the qualities from the top one and either applies it or changes the one on the bottom. I don't know. That's a whole other thing. Anyway, just do a copy merge whenever your values are done. But let's go ahead. Let's get started on this value stuff. That way, and what you'll see, what is kind of nice about this, is that because we have our multiply layer as the sketch and it's on top, you're always going to see, even if like you get pretty dark, you're always going to see your line art over what you're making. Very, very cool. Okay, so that's a quick breakdown of this. This is the value pass layer. So we're going to go in, we're going to start rendering just enough to kind of give us a good idea, show us some lights. Yeah, just kind of what we're going to feel way more comfortable with where we're at after this value pass. That's the goal. So let's get to it. Alright, so we are here. We just completed, well, I say completed, we just did a value pass. So the nice thing about this method, and I think the thing I like the most about it, is you can be as intricate as you want on whatever part is your favorite. So like, I could almost push this completely to final just with values if I wanted to. So I could do like, I don't know, I'm thinking like a staircase of something, and then like a textured wall, or like craggy rocks or something, or maybe like this is the entrance to a dungeon cave type thing to where he's kind of coming in to make a deal, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I just thought, okay, if he has the cool rim light right here, or the interesting rim light, I should say, then I wanted some light behind him, and then basically leading lines just to kind of make sure that it's almost like a little starburst highlight, like ta-da, here's our rogue. And then you have maybe like a staircase, but really what this is for is more of the horizontal, just to intersect, to give the image more depth, so it's like he's standing somewhere in front of something. And even though the perspective of him, he's very kind of flat, I think, as far as like looking, just he's very flat on the canvas. Because we added this that kind of looks like a perspective, it's almost like we're doing it in 3-point perspective. And we can change that with a liquefy tool, like we can make him a little more 3-point perspective later if we want to. But just know that in the value pass, you can put shapes down to really emphasize the story you want to tell here. So we have this. The next step is what I call underpainting. So this can be a number of things. There's two main ways that I do this. So if you want to just do a quick and dirty way, which is what we're going to do for this tutorial, you can do a gradient map. And we'll show what that is in a second. Or if you wanted more hand painterly, if you wanted to practice picking colors and doing color to value shifts and stuff like that, you can actually start painting right away using your basically your values as a map. So basically you're hand making a gradient map. So what I would do on that is, let's say we're on the value render right here. Let's go ahead, let's make a new layer. I'm actually going to delete this layer in a minute. I just want to show you what I mean by this. So let's say, because I know that since he's a cool guy, I want his colors to be kind of the purpley blue, like trench coat, undershirt, and kind of the surroundings to also be a little kind of blue, purple. So we can just start right there. So like, let's say we wanted a cool purple whatever. What you can do is if you select, I'm using the Alt key, you can select what you have right here, and you can see this is already, it says it's kind of warm, but I'm just going to move this over to the cool, and then because we're staying on the same lightness value, I'm just going to bump this over, and then what you can do is you'll basically, oh, let me disable that. Basically, you're just going to come over here like this, you see, and then let's say you wanted the darker version of that. I'm going to color pick. You see how it goes back to red. Let's make it more of a cool purple. You see how it's down here. I'm just going to add a little bit of saturation. And there you go. So you can basically use your values as a grid. Oh, that's cool. I might actually, now that we turn off this black and white, I might actually keep that like he's bloody. Or maybe, yeah, he's leaving somewhere. He just did something. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so see, happy accidents right there, as Bob Ross would say. So we have that right there. Another thing we can do, so that's basically just using your values to pick your colors. And there you go. And that's a good way to go. What I do, quick and dirty, let's do this. Let's work on top of the sketch layer, or on top of our black and white filter, but not on top of the sketch layer. I'm going to go ahead and make a gradient map. So what a gradient map is this right here ties in to your direct blacks. Right here is your pure white. and then you're going to see the gradient go, and you see how it automatically splashes a little bit of color over there. Let me, since I know we're going to have kind of a cool look right here, I actually want to do a warm gradient map, and we'll talk about why in the next step. It's going to help with complementary colors, but it's also going to add visual interest. We're going to be able to pick and choose where we want to make cooler colors and things like that, because we're always going to have the warms to fall back on. This will be especially helpful in the face. The face is going to be, that's the money maker right there. So that's going to be where we're going to spend probably the most amount of time on the rendering and stuff whenever we get our colors figured out. So right here, I have just a whole set of just good, just gradient maps, just your basic gradient maps. You can also see that it does change the color of the lights and the darks. You can see how it's like this. So some really cool looks already, just to get you a good idea and a good sense of where you want to go and where you want to be. But a cool tip. So let's do something like this. You see how it's changing everything? It's even adjusting the values slightly and stuff. They still read okay because relatively the shadows are darker than the lights, you know, all that stuff. All that fun art theory stuff. But let's say you wanted to use a gradient map and keep the exact values that you already had. So if we hit OK, and then see how this is on normal mode? Go ahead and change this to color. And automatically, you keep the values you already had. So let's compare that again. If we go like this, there's that. And then let's go ahead and color. It's kind of hard to make the swap back and forth, but you can really see it in kind of in this area, kind of where the highlight goes into this mid-tone. So that's the normal right there. And this is color right here. It's a little bit more nuanced. Also, it looks a little more green to me. Some of the transfer stuff right here. But what's cool is you're going to notice if I come over here, let's double click. Now we can change this. And the values don't change at all. But like, see this? This is a nice looking kind of a sepia tone. You can have it the cools, but the white stays pure white. That part doesn't change. You see what I mean? There's some really interesting results you can get from this. And basically you can make your own gradient maps. So if you do something like that, let me come over here. Where are the properties? Okay, there we go. You're going to notice that each of these colors deals with a location. So this is 50% gray. Basically think this as pure black, pure white. Then you have your grayscale all the way. This is correlating your colors here. So let's say you wanted to make your own color map. Let's go to like greens and see how some of these are just kind of buck wild and crazy. And these are standard that come with Photoshop. So let's say, I know we talked about doing a warm. God, these are like fluorescent. Oh my God. Compared to what we had. Reds, you know, something like this. So you're keeping the values in check. But pinks and blues and basics. So you have this. So yeah, these are trippy, man. This is kind of how it's going to look near the end, but also with some warms in the face and in the background and stuff. So that sort of thing is pretty cool. But let's say we wanted to introduce a warmer color here, kind of in a shadow area. So right here, well, it kind of already did it. So right here, the location is at 23, meaning 23% brightness. 0% brightness is dark, all the way black. 100% brightness is all the way white. So at 23, we can bring this up and correlate over here. Brightness Let's change this over to 23. And see how automatically, and like we can keep the saturation, we can make it a little more saturated. But you see how now it falls perfectly into place with the values we already established? So let's go ahead and we can maybe add a red near the highlights. So like here, let's go ahead, this is at the location 70. So let's bring over like an orangey red. Let's get desaturated first and come up to where this brightness number is about 70. Okay, then we're gonna crank up that saturation a little bit, hit OK. You see what I mean? So you want to correlate your color with the value. This location is gonna tell you what your brightness should be on whatever color you choose. You can even make this really, really saturated, but as long as you keep it around the 70, it might be a little garish, but it's still gonna work. You know what I mean? So like there you go. There's a custom. I wouldn't keep this one personally. I like them a little more subtle. That way I can paint on top of them. But if you want to get some cool results, that's a great way to do it. Okay. So basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in. I'm going to pick. Let's just pick. We said something warm. It's a little too warm. I like the selenium. There's Sepia Highlights. Sepia Highlights 2. See, that one's good. I really like that. It's super nice and subtle. These are great. By the way, I do all these for Warhammer. Really cool stuff. Gold selenium. So yeah, you get these nice, rich, like gold colors and really cool. And it's very quick. You know what I mean? Very, very fast. So if we have the gold sepia right there, mainly I'm going to look at the face. So like if the face has a good sense of warmth to it, because remember, we are going to be painting over everything, but we're just going to have this little hint of it right here. So maybe something like this. I'm really liking this one. I think this is fitting the mood pretty well. Yeah, so we have something like that. We hit OK. So this is our underpainting. Okay. So underpainting is done. There's no other tweaks to do. So with that being said, let's hop over to the next step. So once again, you can get as detailed as you want. You can start painting here, make a new layer. You can start painting with this. If you want to keep it monochromatic, this is a good way to do that. But we're going to push. We're going to keep pushing. Okay. So let's go to the next step. We'll see you in a second. All right, so we got our gradient map right here. This is where it starts to get fun because now we're going to add color in. Now, the way I used to work is I used to be like, okay, whatever colors we have, and this is still very valid. Don't mistake kind of what I'm saying is it's right or wrong. Whatever method works best for you, go for it. It's just I needed more rich, vibrant, interesting, painterly colors. And the way that I was working wasn't really giving me what I wanted. So what I used to do is I would make a new layer and I would come over, I would change this to color overlay, kind of the same way we did the black and white value thing. And then I would just pick the colors. So let's say I wanted kind of the desaturated, yeah, like the almost like a purple gray type thing for the coat. I would come in and then I would just block in my colors almost, I hear it a lot of times from comic book artists referred to as flats, putting in your flats, your flat colors. And see, because you're on a color overlay layer, you get to keep your values, okay? And then you can even like come in and kind of add a little bit of saturation, but now you can kind of see where the limit on this is. Because all it's reading is the hue, it doesn't matter if you're super cranked and saturated, it's going to change it a little bit, but it's still very, very close. And to me, there's a huge difference between this and this as far as a painting is concerned. So it's all about subtleties. And with this, you can't really have a lot of control over what you see. Okay? So you can a little bit, and like it works okay. And let's say we're going to come in and maybe his shirt is more of kind of the blue cyanish kind of color. You know, kind of under like this. You know, this is an okay way to start blocking in color. It is. But what I found more interesting, instead of color overlay, go to overlay. And now you're gonna see it does completely change values. However, you're still gonna be able to see where your values are, like the lighters right here, the darkers. So what this is doing, this is blending the color that you're picking with the gradient map or your underpainting, whichever method you decided worked best for you. So now you got to use some color theory. Okay, if you have the brown, you know, and you want it to appear kind of the more purpley stuff, probably go ahead and make it more cyan. Because then as you start adding this back in, you're getting information from the layers below it. Does that make sense? Like, you're able to get almost a nice wash, a color wash over what you have. And it integrates, in my opinion, at least, it integrates a little better. And then let's say for those highlights, we wanted it to appear a little bit more highlighted. I'm just going to kind of tweak maybe the hue a little bit, add some dynamic interest. And then I'm going to bring up the brightness, keep that saturation about right here, and then come over here. And you see how much of a difference that is already? This way you can still go back over, you can refine your values. This just, to me, feels way better. And even looks better faster, in my opinion. Just really awesome. Like, yeah, I already like these colors. You know what I mean? Like, this is so quick. And then let's say we're going to do the face. You know how we talked about that? I can actually color pick here. And then because since we're on overlay and we pick this color, it's going to show up a slightly different hue, but more vibrant. You see that? So I'm going to go around where the highlights are. I'm going to hit over here. It just adds a little bit of visual variety, a little bit more extra depth. So then let's have that. Let's add a little bit of warmth, especially around what I call the power T, the eyes, go down to the nose and the mouth. You're going to want it to be a little bit more red because that's where all the blood circulation is. Something like this. That already looks dope. Like, I love how that looks already. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to come in. Now we're going to do the time-lapse part. I'm going to come in just with my overlay. But the best way to think about this is not your final colors. This is another underpainting. Okay, this is another guide that you're going to use, because the number one thing we're going to do, we're going to start getting rid of these lines in a little bit. Okay. But as you can see, as you're getting rid of the sketch, if I just hide it already, it starts to make sense. I mean, you can kind of zoom out and sort of see what we're working with. It works okay. You know what I mean? But really where the nuances come in and the good rendering and the really intense colors and kind of the nice painterly look is going to be at the very end. But that's when we're going to essentially sketch with a paintbrush. But we'll talk about that later. So enjoy this time-lapse part of me figuring out these colors. Primarily going to stay on overlay layer. I may make another layer on top and use hard light. Hard light works pretty well. Let me do that real quick and just show you. Hard light works pretty well if you want to add color to a bright light. So if I go to hard light, and let's say for whatever reason we wanted this white light to be more of like a red, and then I come over here, it has that beautiful glowy like sunburst look, you know, because if I were to do that on overlay, it looks okay. And you know, even soft light works pretty well. It's a little more subtle, but hard light, for whatever reason, just brings in some of that vibrancy. And then, like, let's say we do this, then you can kind of come in and it's like really, really vibrant, right? So it takes a little more control to use it that way, but I just love the vibrancy and the impact that it can have. So you may see me do that a little bit, but I'll try to name the layers and stuff. That way you can see that. But anyway, I think we're off to a pretty good deal. He's a little yellow right now, but we're gonna fix that here momentarily. So enjoy this time lapse. All right, so we did our color overlay. Yes, just some interesting stuff. So there's a few things I wanted to point out. One, I'm actually gonna, during this next step, I'm gonna really kind of focus on making this background make sense. Because right now, I don't know, it could just be because there's a lot of variance of values, but I'm gonna make this way of a smoother gradient because I want him to be the most energetic part of this. I want him to have the most interest. And right now, I think the background's kind of, it's a little bit too chaotic, but this is why we're going to render. So yeah, essentially all of this leads up to what we have right now, right? What this is this is essentially your starting block for a race. This is your true underpainting. This is the thing you're going to push to final, okay? So this is where, like, I could probably put this up as a sketch a day post, and it would do okay. People would be like, oh, that looks cool. What my goal is on this, I am really trying a new rendering method. Very intricate on places of focus. So very like 2 and 3 pixel brushes, a lot of maybe sketching and carving of shapes and things like that. And then as it gets further away from the focal point, it gets more expressive and painterly and all that stuff. Very much a Dave Raposa, Tyler Jacobson, Darkan very Frank Frazetta, really. So I hate to be this way, but you know that meme where it's like how to draw an owl, and the very first thing is a bunch of circles, and it says draw circles, and then the part 2 is like draw the rest of the owl. That's sort of where we're at right now. This is going to be our draw the rest of the owl phase. There's no real rhyme or reason on this. This would be where I would go find reference. This would be where I would go, maybe if I needed a 3D block out of the lighting and all that stuff, to go in and maybe get a Daz figure, light it from behind, really look at how that light is hitting and stuff like that. I'm going to kind of wing it from here. I'm just trying to build instinct. That's what a lot of this Make Sketch a Day stuff is. I do have some color references. Let me bring those over real quick. Where's my... Boop. I do have some color references here. So, there we go. So, these are, ironically enough, Tyler Jacobson pieces. There's like Andrew Marr has some stuff, but you see how like he'll stay fairly detailed, and then as you get further away, it gets more expressive. That's kind of what we're going with. But like Tyler Jacobson is a beast. His D&D art is unbelievable. This is kind of my goal. I would love to be able to paint like this. And the kind of exciting thing about this new method, and it's like, see right here how the light's catching and stuff, really cool, right? These are low resolution images, but same thing kind of here. You can see a lot of very fine detail and good lighting and very fine strokes right here in the smaller parts. And then as you get further out, it's still rendered, but it's more expressive brushwork. See, this is super clear, but it still reads well because this is where you're looking anyway. So he spends the most time here. Then as he gets further away, it's way more abstract art, which I really like. I've always been a big fan of Tyler Jacobson. I even bought his art book that recently came out, and I highly recommend that. But yeah, you can even see the fire, you can see the brush strokes and stuff. So not impasto, because there's no like thick brush stuff, but it's the idea of impasto with your hard round brushes, and that's kind of what I'm really digging lately. So this sort of motif is what I'm after. Not to say that, you know, over the next hour it's going to turn into a Tyler Jacobson piece, but still, this is a good thing to have as reference. Let me move that back over, just so I can see if I'm at that level of finish or something approaching it, to where, yeah, I have it pretty well, but if I were to paint for another 40 hours, I could maybe push it to that level. So yeah, that's kind of the goal. So basically we're going to use a lot of hard round brushes, smooth brushes on the face. Something very important that we're going to do first. The sketch layer, I want to keep it, because see, we have some good stuff, some good info right here, some good edges, but I still want to keep this. I am going to lower the opacity. You see what I mean? So now I still have the detail here, but now I can come in on top, which is how we're going to work. I'm going to like grab this brush, for instance, and then just an example, let's say I'm going to color pick with the Alt button. And I'm going to paint over top. I'm going to get rid, do you see what I mean? Get rid of these lines, but I'm going to color pick while I do it. This is going to be the best of all worlds, because then I still get the nice variance, I get the nice underpainting stuff, I get all that to inform my decision making, but we are no longer working kind of coloring within the lines. Now we're sort of bringing this together as a painting, and like, so if I were to smooth this out, like I would get that and kind of gradient that over, you see what I mean? Kind of add some visual interest here for these highlights on the nose, maybe lessen them a little bit. So I'm using a very light touch. Embarrassingly, for the past like 2 years, I don't know if I mentioned this last video, I think I did. For the past like 2 years, I have been working with a pen that had no pen pressure. It's either that or the pen pressure was really bad. So I didn't get a lot of nuance in regards to brushwork. But now with this, I'm able to like glaze essentially. So let's say I want to get rid of some of these darker lines, but I grab this and then I kind of glaze over. But then if I want it to be pretty rough, I can go in, do something like that. But then I can get this very soft touch kind of glaze in, or it can be harder brushwork, you know. So that's what we're going to play with here for visual interest. So like highlights on the eyes, we're going to make that a little bit more opaque. Kind of come in here, maybe color pick that. You see what I mean? This is rendering. This is how we're going to render this entire thing now. I have no idea how long this is going to take. This could take an hour and a half. This could take 4.5 hours. I don't know. But you're going to see the time lapse. We're going to look at the whole thing. And then at the end, we're going to talk about the painting and then the method. And hopefully we learn a little something in the process. But yeah, without further ado, now it's time to paint, man. Let's go in. Let's do some painting. We're a painter after all. So let's go in and paint. right, so that was a nice like 55-minute painting session. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about what I did and stuff. I like some parts of this, but I probably need to put another 10 hours into this to make it where I want it to be. But hey, at least it shows the process, right? Like, all of this looks very flat, and I think the reason why is the shadows are just too dark. They just, it doesn't make much sense. Like the lighting, I need to repaint a lot of this. But anyway, hopefully you got to see something that you can use for your process. And you can see I did some smudge tool stuff here. Anytime I needed some good brush smudgy looks, I actually made a merged copy. That way all of the visual material was on the correct layer. It was all on one layer. That way whenever I smudged stuff, it would smudge together. Because if you just smudge your working layer and maybe it's only like a line layer, you're only going to smudge what's on that layer. So it's always good to make a merged copy. But some of the rules that we talked about, I am making the more refined lines and highlights and shapes and like the little hairs right here and things like that. It's funny, now he looks more like Dave Navarro from from Jane's Addiction. But yeah, I mean, I need to go in and correct the shape of the lips and stuff. You saw me do the liquefy tool just to kind of bump some stuff around. I also added a little bit of rim light here on the beard because these values of the beard and then the shadow right here were almost exactly the same, which is fine. It's just I'm also practicing my contrast control for like card art and stuff. So overall, this is okay. This is a decent deal. Like I would very gladly hand this in to an art director. Regards to like, okay, how does this look? Do we want to go to final push? Because this gives the mood. It gives the mood. Another thing that I did is I actually used a color lookup table, which is the same thing as a gradient map. However, it has a lot more internal data than just what color on what value. It does a big algorithm. It's basically color correction, the same thing you would do in photography. So you can do color correction that way. It's a balance of colors. And I just like the color lookups. I probably have 4 or 5 dozen color lookup tables that I can kind of go through. You saw me scroll through them. Once again, it's on color overlay. That way the values and stuff that we have are fine. And then what's nice about that is if I wanted to keep the colors that I already had, I can just lower the opacity of any of the gradient maps or color lookup tables. And then that way it can kind of harmonize a little better. But hopefully you saw something you like. Hopefully there's something here that you can kind of dig into and stuff like that. So yeah, that's our painting right now. I think I am going to work a little more on this. Maybe get some thicker brushes, do all this for the May sketch a day. But once again, this is one sketch a day, just spending a few hours on these at a time. I think all told, a little over 2 hours from the start of a blank canvas to where we're at right now. Which, you know, that's about what I like to do for... let me come over here. That's what I like to do for sketches. So I'm in the dark because I'm an art goblin right now. I always do. I just want to make sure I see the lights correctly. But anyway, hope you found something you dig. Let me know in the comments if any part of this was helpful for you. Hopefully you see something that might speed up your process. But really the main takeaway from this, make your stuff in chunks. Make each step very deliberate in what you're doing. Okay, this is my sketch, this is my values, this is my color blocking, this is my slight refinement, this is my wash layer. Very methodical. So I'm actually soon, tomorrow, I'm getting a 48 pack of art canvases, and I'm going to be doing the same method with oil paints and acrylic paints just to see how well it works. I have a good feeling about it, but yeah, I got 48 of them, so there's going to be a ton of painting happening here. But yeah, hopefully you saw something you like. Let me know in the comments what you think. And good luck on whatever pieces you're working on, whether it's for clients or your personal projects. Yeah, have a blast. Hope you learned something fun. And we will see you next time. Peace.